Friends, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project, a copyrighted edition for our video channel, and we're here with executive producer Huck, who's in a real rowdy mood today. She was demanding a lot of things: walks, talks, food, snacks, toys, games. Yeah, I don't know about this executive producer stuff. Yes, 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 a good girl. Shake. Oh, that's a good girl. Yeah. So anyhow, we're on to the show, and today's show is about missing people. And we have 3 good cases for you today. Interesting ones. But before I get into those cases, I start talking to you about all of that, let me explain to you a few things about what's been going on up here. So we had the first snow of the year just the other day, and it wasn't a lot. Hit the top of the mountains around here, but it's really cold outside. I think the fish are even a little cold, but just the mountaintops got touched. So this year, Missing 411, the UFO Connection. Our next documentary. You can watch our first 2 documentaries for free, and the links are under the first comment on this video. It's a pinned comment that we put on there, and it'll be links to our store, links to videos, links to other videos that I've done, 380 plus that are on this channel, interviews I've done, etc. This movie is going to be big, folks. Big. Because a lot of people have said, well, Dave, you know, it's all these years you've never pointed to a cause. Who says I'm pointing to a cause now? So what I have said is that there's a connection. Some people are jumping to conclusions. And that's fine. They can if they want. But maybe I am pointing to a possible cause too. But you got to be really careful. All of my career has been based on pointing you to facts associated with different things. Now, whether it's news in society, whether it's missing people, UFOs, just stick to the facts. Because facts can't get you into trouble. There's been several comments lately saying, hey, Dave, come on, tell us what you think is going on. I get this like 5 of those comments every month. And I like to tell you that the people out here in this village, are many of them, the majority, are way smarter than me. And many of you have read all of my books, and you can't come up with a rationale behind what's causing this. So the worst thing a researcher can ever do is guess. And if you can't stand on firm ground and you start guessing, you're not going to be in the public spectrum very long, because you're going to lose your credibility. And I know some people out there that they want me to guess and they want me to be wrong so they can go out and attack me. A lot of people attack me, and I'm just stating facts. Now, the best one as of late, we get somebody contacts our online sales and says, hey, I bought this book from you. Why are you guys ripping me off? I paid $125 for it. This is absolutely garbage. Blah, blah, blah. Manager goes back to him, you didn't buy it from us. Yes, I did. No, you didn't. Don't tell me what I didn't do. Well, they bought it from somebody on Amazon. And I may have to start doing this every show. Do not buy our books from Amazon, eBay, any online service, because you're going to get ripped off. Those people charging 4 or 5 times what we charge on our website for the book. Our website and our store is at NA, like North America, BigfootSearch.com. I'm sorry that the people keep getting ripped off, but I tell this almost every week. So hopefully, if you have bought a book from one of those online salespeople, return it. Tell them you don't want it. You paid too much money. So, my books. The movies and the research. And then it comes to the videos, the online videos. Now, these videos, I don't know how long they're going to be on, and I'll be honest with you. And I've said this for a long time, that YouTube recently has been unsubscribing people. Thanks, Huck. It was rude. Be nice to people, Huck. They're our supporters. She walks by and she doesn't realize there's a stand there. She just bangs her head into it. Yeah. She goes, Dad, what am I doing? She comes over, wants a little pet. Yeah, it's a good girl. It's a good girl, yeah. And I don't want people to be upset about buying outside and getting ripped off by resellers. And we try to make everybody aware, and we try to keep everybody informed. Now on this channel, our video channel, YouTube has started to unsubscribe people, put dozens of ads on one of my videos in an attempt to push you away. Rather than outright censoring me, which they could still do, they've decided to take this maneuver and push people away in this manner. The truth is, there's nothing I can do. And there is no other site right now that I could go to and be any better off. If anything, I might be worse off. Oh, she just jumped up here and said, hi, Dad. Hey, people are watching you right now. She goes, pay attention to me. Because of that, I'm going to stay on YouTube for a while more. I don't know how much longer, or until they just take me down. People say, well, why don't you go here, why don't you go there? I've laid out my criteria many times. I'm in a tough position because my criteria is pretty strict. Each place Angie and I have spent hours researching and talking to people, nothing has come forward that will be any better. All of them they don't say that they censor, but they have a censorship team that reviews content. We had a meeting with a VP at Rumble, and an appointment set, everything was set, and he no-shows. I emailed him back, and he ignored me. So why would I want to go to Rumble? Rumble would be worse than this. Now, I am on I'm on Twitter. David Paulides at CanAm Missing. I think I have 34,000 followers there. And I'm also at Truth Social at CanAm Missing. So those two are working out pretty well so far. I mean, Twitter just the other day took away 400 of my subscribers. No questions, just took them away. But that's life in the lane. Now, let's go to some current events related to mental health and missing people. This was in Phoenix. The title was, After Losing a Sister to Suicide, the Phoenix Bishop Renews Urgent Plea to Launch Mental Health Ministry, October 20th, 2022. The diocese also shared that Mary is the third of Dolan's 8 siblings to die by suicide, underlining his urgent plea to get mental health ministry underway in a diocese of Phoenix. After announcing Bishop John P. Dolan lost his sister to suicide, the diocese in Phoenix on Wednesday renewed its urgent plea to get the ministry underway. Our hearts are breaking the way we know the loss of Mary Elizabeth Dolan, youngest sister of John P. Dolan of the Diocese of Phoenix. Mary, who from her days in college suffered from mental depressive disorder, was found on October 16th, died by suicide. The diocese also shared that Mary is the third of Bishop Dolan's 8 siblings to die by suicide, underlining his plea to get it going. He also lost a brother by suicide. Bishop Dolan was installed as the 5th bishop of Phoenix in June, announced plans to establish a Catholic mental health ministry in the diocese last month. There are lots of people dealing with the loss of loved ones, he stated. Dolan is 60 years old. Bishop Dolan explained in an interview with Phoenix TV station ABC 15 in September that his brother Tom died by suicide at the age of 19 after struggling, unbeknownst to his family, with mental health disorders. Bishop Dolan also lost both of his 27-year-old sister Therese and brother-in-law to suicide years later during a 3rd year of studies in the seminary. Okay, forget about this may deal with the Catholic Church. Just forget about that for a second. This is really one of the key points for me that I wish every church would take under its wing and start helping people with mental health disorders. Because it's a location people could go and feel safe, know that their discussions are private, know that they're going to be protected in the church. This is really one thing that every church could take under its wing and get going right now. And they need to have mental health experts on hand to deal with many of their parishioners. They have to. I hope that the bishop has the wherewithal to get this going. The Catholic Church certainly has the money to get this going. So I wish they would do this immediately. This is an article on a site called Psypost, P-S-Y-P-O-S-T, October 17th, 2022. Study finds 4-fold higher suicide risk among men who suffered loss of social status during the COVID-19 pandemic. A new online survey found that men who suffered a loss of social status during the COVID-19 pandemic 4 times more likely to have attempted suicide in the past month, more than twice as likely to report having suicidal ideations in the past 2 weeks, and they reported higher levels of depressive symptoms compared to men who have not experienced loss of social status. These risks seem to be additionally elevated for men who strongly endorse traditional masculine roles. The study was published in Psychology of Men and Masculinities. If you're new here, take this to the bank. Since COVID, suicides have gone up dramatically in our society. And it doesn't seem like a lot of communities really care much. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to commit any resources, any funds. And the people that really need it are having a difficult time finding mental health treatment in those communities. It's an absolute disaster, folks. It's almost as though that our government doesn't care about people with mental health. I've said this 100 times. But until somebody really starts paying attention, I'm going to keep banging this drum. And I know a lot of you out there have stated in the last year, Dave, don't talk about mental health. It's too depressing. I turn you off when you talk about it. But I have too many people out there who have written to me and said, Dave, thank you for talking about it. It doesn't make me feel alone, like I'm the only one out there. Oh, no, you're not the only one out there. You can count me in as having mental health issues in the past, dealing with Ben and his loss. It destroyed me for months. I still have days it destroys me. I don't care what you think about not wanting to discuss it or it makes you depressed. You've had depressive days too. Oh yes, you have. Don't tell me nobody has a depressive day. We need to start helping each other on this scale. Quick story. When I moved to Montana, I met a man, very nice man, very humble man. He has one of those jobs that I think people would take him for granted. And not too long ago, he found out he had cancer. He told me he was going to go to the hospital and have treatment to remove part of this cancer. Right away, I knew I'm going to go visit this man. Probably wouldn't expect me to show up, but I'm going to do it because he's helped me many times, just in his job. And he's good at his job. But like I said, he's one of those people that probably is taken for granted a lot. So I went down and I visited him at the hospital. I brought him one of my books, a Montana book. I said, hey, you can read about this area. And he looked really stunned to see me. And remember, I've told all of you many times, do something nice for someone. Go outside your comfort zone. It'll make you feel better about yourself. If I could have improved that man's day 3%, maybe that was a 3% he was never going to get that day. But when I was in his room, we just had a type of conversation that I don't think we ever had before. Private, alone. Yeah, there's so many people like that out there that, you know, maybe it's the clerk at the grocery store. Maybe it's the cashier at the gas station. All of those people make our world function, and without them, we're doomed. Truck drivers out there. You wouldn't have anything on the shelf at the store without them. In Montana, we have a lot of farmers and a lot of ranchers. We'd be doomed without them. And you know what? Everything about their job is tougher now. Gas is way more money. Parts, fertilizer, everything's difficult. They got to pay through the nose to get it. So anytime you can go out of your way and do something nice, do it. And if enough of us did it regularly, our world would start to change. And rather than seeing the negative in everybody, start reaching out and doing something positive. Okay. Into some weird letters. Hey Dave, a few episodes ago you asked for folks to share their orb experiences. Well, mine is not really exciting. It does possibly involve the vortexes in Sedona, Arizona. If you've never been to Sedona, go. Very cool town. I live just over 40 miles exactly due west of the Sedona vortexes in Chino Valley, Arizona. My sighting occurred in August 2018. First, some personal background. I'm a licensed pilot, 40 years, so I enjoy an understanding of aeronautics and aircraft. Until my sighting, I was a skeptic on most things paranormal, including cryptids and UFOs. I believe that when it came to UFOs, I was probably a case of people either misidentifying objects in the sky or perhaps advanced aircraft not known to the public. Now, to my sighting, I had walked outside to watch the sunset that August evening. Almost immediately, my eye was caught by the movement of these three large orbs just ahead and a few hundred feet to my right, moving away from me, traveling due west. From my calculations based on their flight path, that terrain they covered in 5 seconds indicated their speed at 1,400 miles an hour at an above-ground altitude of 200 feet. The craft were completely soundless. I say craft as they were definitely flying under intelligent control. Their distance from my position when I first noticed them was initially within a quarter mile until they changed course to due north at a complete right angle with no reduction in speed or change in altitude. In other words, they did not bank like an aircraft, but made an L-shaped turn. Faster than the eye could see, they accelerated out of sight. That would have been fun to see. The orb's appearance reminded me of soap bubbles in the sun, iridescent colors of orange and gold, but also emitting an inner glow of white light. As to their size, imagine a golf ball held on the tip of your finger with your arm completely outstretched. Golf ball. That was the size about a quarter mile from my position. Perhaps they have some connection to the 5 Sedona vortexes, which at their speed were merely 36 seconds behind them. Thank you for all you do. The heartfelt work you do on behalf of the missing people is important. My hiking partner and I adhere to never having a point of separation. Smart. Thanks to your books and research, I'm never without my firearm. Also, my sincere condolences about Ben. Thank you. Well, thank you. I like to get messages from pilots because they know what's in the sky, because they're in the sky always. Next letter. Hey Dave, first of all, you sure have opened my eyes about some things, and you've clued me in on some others. I only know one hunter, that's my brother-in-law. I made sure my sister understood that it's vital for him to have a personal locator beacon. She was very interested, and I told her what you told us, that it doesn't have to be anything special or expensive, just as long as he has one. I'm sure he has one now, so thanks for that 411. All of it. I admit that many of those things that I've learned from you, I wouldn't have ever believed had they not come from you. Your credibility comes from your overall attitude and persona. Well, I'm humble. Thank you very much. I'd like to share with you 3 different incidents, 3 different types of orbs I myself witnessed. When I was a young girl, I was watching out for my sister, who was walking next door to my other sister's house at nighttime. When she was well over halfway there, this bowling ball-sized orb manifested itself. It was immediately on a straight path towards her and gaining on her. I understood that at that moment it was a ball of lightning, even though I had never heard of such a thing. But I, being frozen with fear, couldn't call or yell her name. Then just as I began to approach her, it dissipated just as quickly as it appeared. I was so young and with no real way to explain it, I just never mentioned it to anyone. The next time I saw something like this, I was living in an old mill house. The orb this time was a very small dim light, maybe the size of a dime. I was sitting in my living room and this little golden ball of light just came floating in the room from the adjacent room. It moved around slowly, passed right over my head. You know, I was tripping because I'd only seen these on TV before. I saw this with my own 2 naked eyes. It got about halfway across the room and just disappeared. I didn't feel afraid, but I was left wowed. And the last time I saw something like that was unlike anything I've heard anyone speak of before. This orb was about the size of a golf ball, and the color was lavender. It looked almost like it could have been made of something puffy, but there was clearly a subtle illumination emanating from it. At around 1 a.m., I had just pulled into my driveway, turned off my car, and there it was floating around the tree. It was wintertime because there were no leaves on it. He's a good girl. Just jumped up. Said, Dad, pet me. I want some hugs. Yeah, I'll pet you. Give me some time, okay? You're a good girl. You're a good girl. Yes. Okay, at around 1 a.m., I just pulled into my driveway, turned off my car, and there it was floating around the tree. It was wintertime because there were no leaves on it. I sat there and watched it move about that tree for at least 5 minutes before it disappeared. My mind's logic said that fairies must really be real. I would have called myself crazy, but I was the one who saw it, and the experience left me confused. Years later, I was a night guard, and there's a certain tree that is obviously very old, but there was just something about it. So I decided to take a picture of it one night. As soon as my camera's flash went off, I saw 3 other tiny flashes come back at me from 3 different parts of the tree. I took many more pictures, but without the same response. Still, there were a few things in those pictures that are just slightly peculiar. But that entire experience I can't explain without involving fairies. That is something that I always thought was just preposterous, unlike Bigfoot. I always knew that there had to be something to the Bigfoot stories, mainly because of the indigenous people's account of it. But I grew up in what we called sticks in Moore, South Carolina. I'm familiar with the whooping sound of my childhood. I remember asking my dad, what was that? To which he responded, I don't know, just some kind of animal. And we went on our way. Nothing more being said about it. I was wondering if you have any cases from South Carolina. Last but not least, of course there's cases in South Carolina for sure. I know that missing persons cases, I guess you're referring. I know that from what you're doing is very important and that you have influenced so many of us in different ways. And I want to thank you for your time and effort into this research, as well as sharing it with the world. I also want to remind you that we all have a mission when we come into this physical realm. Your Ben sounds like he was a real special man. In my eyes, he was a hero because he got you started and set up with your YouTube channel. Maybe that was his main mission in that life, and something deep inside him knew that he needed to exit that life early so he can get back in time to fulfill his purpose in the next life. The end of this age is drawing nearer every day. The biblical prophecies are coming to pass at an unprecedented rate. He may be reborn as a spiritual leader of some sort, a vessel for the living God. He may be responsible for saving millions of others' lives. I don't know. Yes, I don't know. I can see that how much Huck has helped you heal. Much love and respect. Huck has helped me heal a lot. This is true. And just so people know, Ben came home from school and said, hey, Dad, let's do some YouTubes. You know, we were living in Colorado then. He said, let's go out and go to some sites where people disappeared. The videos he did are still on this channel. And we can do them and we'll put them up. We did several of those, and then he said, hey, Dad, let's do a movie. The point being is that Ben got me started on YouTube, which is why I'm here. I would not be here without my son. And then the movie, I guarantee I would have never, ever, ever stepped into that realm without Ben. He had, you know, when you're young, the unknown doesn't scare you as much when you get older. Well, I don't think it scared Ben 1%. He just plugged away and said, let's go, we'll do it. We'll get it done. I'll find the people to help us. And he did. So, yeah, I'm eternally grateful for what Ben did for me. Hey Dave, I've been following your work since August 21st, 2017. In fact, if it wasn't for my oldest daughter, I would have remained absolutely clueless. You see, that day my family was out on a waterfall hike in North Carolina mountains when she introduced me to your YouTube channel. After viewing a few episodes and purchasing your first movie, I immediately went out and purchased a personal transponder and no longer go out without it. Thank you. Hallelujah. Thanks for doing that. Recently, you asked your viewers to share UFO experiences. After tonight's events, I felt it was time to stop thinking these events as being military related, as they'd become too bizarre. Tonight marks the third experience, and after seeing this, I made the decision that it is definitely something that must get shared with you immediately. Okay. Background info: my husband and I reside in North Carolina, which is very near Camp Lejeune and New River Air Force Base. Typically, my husband and I would relate any strange experiences that we've seen in the night sky and pass it off as being a military exercise. Well, at least I did until tonight, October 20th, 2022's event. The first experience happened a couple of years back, early winter, approximately 10:30 p.m. We're driving home when we're about to take the right-hand turn down our road when my husband and I both saw something strange in the night sky. We stopped the car to watch for 3 to 5 minutes. The thing we were seeing was a slow-moving cluster of lights in a triangular pattern. The lights were moving slowly across the sky, then just as they had appeared to us, they shot off and disappeared. Immediately after the lights were gone, we looked at each other and said, "Did you see that?" Then talked ourselves into believing it was a military exercise. Second experience occurred June 2022 as we were sitting in the hot tub. That's a great place to view the sky. The sky had just transitioned from dusk into full darkness. That night, a black triangle-shaped object jetted across the night sky, heading out towards the ocean. Within a few minutes, 2 military planes showed up shooting across the sky, almost appearing to be searching for the object that my husband and I had just witnessed. After completing a couple of passes, the 2 military craft went back to the base. Soon after the craft were gone, we then saw something lighter in color, almost like a bird-like, fly across the sky and disappear. Again, we chalked it up to military exercise, not thinking anything else about it. Event number 3 occurred tonight, October 20th, 2022 at 8:48 p.m. Again, my husband and I were sitting in the hot tub. And you guys like that hot tub. Now, a hot tub, if it's really cold, snowing outside, a hot toddy right there. I was looking up into the night sky and I noticed a very bright light. At first I thought it was an airplane headlight, however there were no accompanied red lights. My second thought was that the light was a satellite or rocket. As I reached for my cell phone to open up my SkyGuide app, the white object dimmed into darkness, simply disappearing into the night sky. It was almost as if it had jetted up and outwards into the infinite galaxy. I immediately said to my husband, that was definitely a UFO. Within 3 minutes of the object disappearing, a triangular-shaped craft flies over the house towards... She's like a little 4-year-old who just wants her time with Dad. I can't... Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, she just jumps up onto my lap and goes, Dad, would you stop reading that stupid paper and pay attention to me? Oh, gosh. Okay, then within 4 minutes or so, a light-colored bird-looking object goes flying by in the sky towards the ocean. Again, very odd. After tonight's event, a story that my daughter Megan had shared back in high school years came to mind. I thought she was making the story up because I was so sound asleep, but now I know she was most definitely telling me the truth. Megan shared that while she had a sleepover at our house, that her and her friends went out to the pool for a late-night dip. As they were swimming, this aircraft flew over the house and then circled back around, hovering over the pool, shining a light down onto the pool of her friends. The girls ran into the house and the light disappeared. I really thought that it was a military helicopter with young military fellas trying to scare a bunch of girls. But after tonight's event, I recalled my daughter's story and the look she had on her face. I'm now thinking she was telling the truth about the light that hovered over the pool was something more than a military helicopter. Mr. Paulides, I have no doubt that you are onto something. Unfortunately, I'm not able to make the viewing for the UFO Connection. However, I will purchase it as soon as it's out. Thanks for reading this. Most of all, thanks for listening and believing and not judging. Take care. Continue to speak of Ben. Continue to find peace, love, and happiness. Why, thank you. Yeah, when you said a bunch of young military guys seeing a bunch of young girls in the pool, yeah, let's fly over and light them up. Well, you'd know if it was a helicopter, you'd hear the helicopter. But if there's no sound, probably not your typical helicopter. Hey, Dave, I want to tell you about seeing a UFO that was dark in color and triangular shaped. It was January 11th, 2022. I remember because it was my birthday. I was coming back from a famous buffet in the area called Shady Maple. It's an Amish buffet. Okay, time to admit something. I like buffets. Amish buffets? Oh, that sounds awesome. There's a Amish restaurant in far northern Idaho. And Angie and I stop in it all the time because, oh, it's so good. They have great food. But anyhow, I saw the UFO between the buffet and Pottstown, Pennsylvania. It was a triangle in shape and hovering above a farm. It was about 7:30 to 8. The color was dark and I can't say metallic. It looked almost flat black. I have seen three UFOs in the past year while biking in the Schuylkill River Trail. One was the day before Thanksgiving 2021 on that river trail. Then on my birthday, January 11th. Then I saw another one while biking the Schuylkill River Trail in Norristown, PA about a month ago. My boyfriend was with me but didn't see it. I saw it. Thank you for listening, Dave. I've written to you about seeing a big black cat on the SRT as well as having an abduction experience in June. I know what is happening, so do you. That's why I can confide. I'm humbled. Thank you for trusting me. So, I appreciate the stories. Now, what's funny, not funny at all, I'm sorry. What's coincidental about the Schuylkill River area is last year I did a segment on a story about a man who disappeared while he was on and next to the Schuylkill River. And they found him in the river, and they could never figure out how he got in the river. Well, it's pretty weird that people now had seen, UFOs over that river. This is the first time I've heard that, but it makes sense to me. Hey, you know how many people are watching you right now? Cuckoo dog. Okay. Hey, mom's not home, and you know you can get away with stuff, don't you? Yeah. See, if mom was home, she'd come in and get Huck, and dad would have peace. But mom's not home right now, so Huck goes, oh, so I can screw with dad while he's on the doing his videos. Oh yeah, you're gonna get yours later. Okay, let's get serious for a second. We're gonna talk about missing people. First case, disappeared July 29th, 2003, Richard Milner. Now, this case, I know it well. And I know it well because I spent a lot of time researching it. This is Richard. He was at Strathcona Park in Vancouver Island, British Columbia. If you've never been to the park, it's absolutely epically gorgeous. Big mountains, lakes, remote, massive. Well, Richard was a mechanical engineer in Edmonton, 44 years old, single, in phenomenal shape. He cycled daily, was a trail runner, and he liked to go to Strathcona every year to hike. And he'd done it for dozens of years. Well, he was staying, every year that he went, he liked to go to the same area, hike it, see what's different. And while what may take you and I 6 to 8 hours would probably only take Richard a couple hours because he was a runner, he was fast. Well, he parked his 1998 Dodge Dakota pickup at the Prince Creek trailhead to a place called Cream, C-R-E-A-M Lake. Now, Cream Lake is down in here. This is a place called Butyl Lake. And this is the search zone where he went from here to Cream on a trail in amongst giant mountains. Now, this area is really pretty, folks. So he had his Dodge Dakota truck parked there. He had talked to the host at the campground. This was just going to be a day hike for him. And it was about 4 hours to the lake and 4 hours back for most people. He'd probably do it round trip in 4 hours. He left wearing just shorts and a shirt. It was just a day hike, no big deal. Well, the camp host saw his truck parked there for the second day in a row and decided to call local search and rescue. Police came out also, and they ran the license plate. They identified the truck as belonging to Richard Milner. And they entered the truck, and they found on the front seat he had left a note saying, if I'm not here, please call my brother. And he left the phone number for Tad Milner, who was a Simon Fraser University professor. So search and rescue, RCMP, they called the brother. He immediately left for the park. Now, that's a good brother. That's a really good brother. That's the kind of people you want looking after you. So Tad arrived at the park, and he told search and rescue that they'd be looking for a man that was extremely athletic. He knew the trails in this area. He had been going to them for over 10 years. Hey, do you realize you're on TV? Come on, Dad, play. I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry. So, the total hike was 8.5 kilometers. Described by search and rescue as fairly easy. So, search and rescue brings in helicopters, planes, ground pounders, 50 volunteers, 3 helicopters, canines, and they found nothing. Not a thing. And his brother walked the trail that Richard would have been on and said that any place that his brother would have fallen, he would have been found. Because a lot of the area, there was no ground cover. And Richard was 6 foot, 160 pounds, lean and fast. It's been 19 years. He's never been found, which does not make sense. Now, the reason I'm talking to you about trail runners is going to be evident really quick. But in my books, I've talked about this specific subset of missing people. And Richard's case is a setup for what I'm going to talk to you about from here on out. So, the next case is even more recent, folks. July 17th, 2022. A young man named Daniel Lamthach from Salt Lake City. This is the search and rescue bulletin that went out on Daniel. He went missing July 17th this year in the Trinity Peaks Weminuche Wilderness area of Colorado. From Salt Lake City. He was going to help with a cross-country run in that area. And then at the end of the run, he decided to do a hike near a place called Molas, M-O-L-A-S Lake. Parked his car there, told some friends he was just going to go on a day hike, and he didn't come out. 2 days later, his friends called the San Juan County Sheriff, and they decided to start taking over for a search and rescue. Immediately when the sheriff arrives that 3rd day after he's missing, thunderstorms started to hit the area hard, and almost immediately there were flash flood advisories in the area where Daniel disappeared. So, if you look at a map, this is Molas Lake. This is vehicle parked right next to it. He went on a hike, and at the confluence of 2 trails, somebody found his cell phone just laying in the dirt. Troublesome. That's a big, big problem in our world. So, they talked to his family, they talked to his friends, they knew he was in excellent shape. They knew that they were dealing with somebody that could really outrun anybody because he was a trail runner. And they knew that now he was without his phone and the weather was going bad quickly. There were a lot of ways to go from this confluence of these trails, the Elk Creek Trail and the Vestal Creek Trail. Well, thunderstorms and things were definitely inhibiting searchers, but they still called in multiple helicopters, airplanes, 50 ground pounders, canines, multiple searches. They found nothing. And they had to cancel the search because of impending flooding in the area. So, again, I'm going to show this to you. So here's the parking lot. Here's where the phone's found. This is the Animas River. Now this is the actual search and rescue map of where they searched. So his car is found here. His phone is found here. And the lines are the search zone that they searched. Interesting to me that they had such a confined area around this trail to search. And the real problem with this is that we don't have enough search and rescue people to do a massive job. We need more search and rescue people. It's a national crisis. So, if If you guys do remember, just a week and a half ago, I told you about the case regarding David Lund, another trail runner. Disappeared October 1st, 2022. Another incredibly fit person who disappeared at Madden Peak Trailhead in the San Juan National Forest. So, this is where Daniel disappeared. This is where David disappeared. 30 air miles between the two locations. Now here's where the coincidences get even weirder. 30 air miles apart and 85 days apart. Both trail runners, both alone. Both of them are under 30. And both have the initials DL. It's pretty weird. David Lund and Daniel Lamthach. Both never found. Both disappeared under almost identical circumstances, went to a trail alone, and were not found. So what happened here? I can tell you one thing that happened is that search and rescue in both cases had to stop because of bad weather. In both instances, they had thunderstorms in the area. And in the last instance, in Daniel's case, they had to stop because of flooding. Very sad. Now the next case, do you want to just tell them what it is? It's a case I've talked about in the past at conferences because it's a case that has always bothered me immensely. And the man's name was Paul Lemaitre, 66 years old, missing July 4th, 2012 in Seward, Alaska. This is Paul, 66 years old. He was running the Mount Marathon. It's an annual run. There's never been a fatality or a disappearance until this case. And Seward is about 60 miles south of Anchorage. Now, the Mount Marathon race first launched in 1915, and it's essentially a hike, run, scramble up a 3,022-foot peak. They limit the number of participants so they can keep track of it. It starts in downtown Seward. It's about a 3.1 to 3.5 mile grueling race. Part of it's 38 degrees. The steepest goes up a 60-degree slope. So Paul had trained for this for a long, long time. He wanted to make sure he could compete and he could do well. He was a civilian employee at Joint Base Elmendorf, where he counseled military families and military personnel after they left. So he had family at the start line. The course record for finishing was 1 hour and 11 minutes. And Paul told everybody he just wanted to finish respectfully. During that first part of the race, two very unusual things happened. There were two falls within the first half of the race where participants were seriously injured. And that had never happened before. So, where is this? So, this is Seward, Alaska. Anchorage is up here. This is the Mount Marathon race peak. The trailhead is right here in town. Take up, go around, come back down. Well, by all accounts, Paul was the last one on the trail. And there were monitors on the trail that saw Paul coming up and stopped him and said, "Hey, are you okay? You sure you want to finish?" Well, at 6 p.m., they saw him on that trail. The race started at 3. And he said, no, I'm good. I want to finish. Race personnel said that he looked good. He had no signs of stress, no signs of exhaustion. They told his wife that he was the last one on, but be patient. And if you don't see him by 8 o'clock, call us, because it was downhill from there. Well, his wife contacted race officials at 8 o'clock. Paul did not come down. And immediately Seaward Fire Department and Alaska State Troopers were dispatched to go look for him. And as they were looking for him, fog came in and inundated the area. So as they were looking, there were 2 bears sighted in the area, black bears, not grizzly. It started to snow immediately after that. But still, Alaska State Troopers put a helicopter in the air with FLIR looking for Paul, because they're going to find, if they're going to find him, his body heat is going to show through on the FLIR. They also put 6 dog teams into the area. The National Park assisted, Alaska State Troopers, Air National Guard. There was a 5-day search and rescue on that mountain. So when he was stopped by race officials, he was 200 feet from the summit, and he was following the organizers up to the mountain so he could go back down. The organizers said he was on his way down when they last saw him. Now, about a year after he disappeared, Paul was listed as deceased, having died from hypothermia. It was said that Paul had poor eyesight, but it wasn't a big mystery as to where this race course was at. It was fairly obvious. And people were a little puzzled that Paul would not have the ability to see the course and to get his way down. Nobody really believed it. So in all that time, and all of those search efforts, Paul was never found. And since that time, no other serious injuries have happened, and no other disappearances have ever occurred. Which is odd, to say the least, because it's never happened before, and 3 major incidents happened in 2012 at that race. Now, these 4 cases now I've talked to you about, involving trail runners. This is only a small fraction of what I have documented who has disappeared. And I wish that people would start paying attention to this. Many times people go out and trail run by themselves, as in the cases described here, or they are alone in the trail, or as in Paul's case, he was the last one in line on the trail. I don't know what to say about it other than it's a subgroup of people who have disappeared. And some of the people who have disappeared are world-class runners. And I've talked about them in the books. So I want to put this one back up again, this map, because here, look at this map. 30 miles apart. And just a couple months apart from each other. And both trail runners, both never found. I'm having a heck of a time fighting off my own dog. She wants to play so bad. Oh my gosh. I'm embarrassed, folks. We're having a stare down. Okay, I think that's enough. So, again, Daniel Lamthach and David Lund, 30 air miles apart, and in the same part of Colorado. That's got to bring your awareness up that something odd is going on there during this time. I'm sorry. I just tend to think that was the case. In the other case, Paul Lemaitre, Seward, Alaska. Richard Milner, Vancouver Island. Strathcona National Park. You should go there. It's beautiful. But anyhow, Paulides and Huck are going to say goodbye for now and say we really appreciate you being here. We thank you for your patience. The dog will learn manners. It normally does have good manners, but today it just knows. I appreciate you being patient with her. And I will see you soon. Paulides out.